Biden! Let's get this over with.
In providing sustainable support for Ukraine in winning the.
Welcome back to another episode of the Resident-in-Chief Highlights, where we play highlights, aka lowlights, of Joe Biden from the past week. Before we get these highlights started, I just wanted to make note of one thing. Apparently, Joe Biden doesn't think there's enough crime coming across the border because he is now set to give amnesty to what the media is claiming will be hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants.
Multiple sources familiar with the White House's plans tell NBC News that President Biden is set to take executive action as early as Tuesday to protect hundreds of thousands of undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens from deportation.
As far as the past week goes from the Resident-in-Chief, Biden wandered around looking lost after skydivers came down. He was saved from a freezing up moment by Barack Obama on stage. He talked about how he and Larry Fink go way back apparently. He then went on to say how terrible it was that certain Republican lawmakers did not support sending billions of dollars to other countries. And again, he claimed that Hunter was one of the brightest, most decent men that he knows. As I covered earlier in the week, he had a Juneteenth freeze and he gave a ridiculous anti-gun speech after Hunter was convicted. Lastly, he complained that reporters were not playing by the rules because they asked a question that he would have rather not answered.
They include key parts of Russia's financial sector. I'll wait till it goes over. As well as individual and entities that supply Russia with items critical to its defense production, like microelectronics. It includes major commitments from Ukraine to impact and to implement democratic, economic, and security reforms. I'm extremely proud of my son Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know, and I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision, and I will do that, and I will not pardon him. Additionally, the G7 achieved a significant outcome this week on the matter of Russia's frozen assets in Europe and other places outside of Russia.
About what more, if anything, the U.S. can do to drive towards a peace agreement. Thank you.
I wish you guys would play by the rules a little bit. I'm here to talk about a critical situation in Ukraine. You asked me another subject. I'll be happy to answer it in detail later. But the bottom line is that we've made an agreement. I've laid out an approach that has been endorsed by the UN Security Council, by the G7, by the Israelis, and the biggest hang-up so far is Hamas refusing to sign on, even though they have submitted something similar. By the way, the idea that we had to wait till we passed the legislation overall, even held up by a small majority of our Republican colleagues, was just terrible. And there's a lot more money coming beyond what's already come in the other tranches that are available now that we've passed the legislation. So they'll have what they need and get it there as quickly as we possibly can.
And thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership in the G7's decision on $50 billion loan for Ukraine. It's a vital step forward in providing sustainable support for Ukraine in winning this war.
Thank you all so very much. Appreciate
This
it.
concludes our press conference. Thank you, everybody.
President Biden, did you all have a chance to discuss a possible ceasefire?
Yes.
Are you confident it's going to be done soon, sir?
No. I haven't lost hope, but it's going to be tough. The decisions I think we make now are going to determine the course of our future for the next 5 or 6 decades. We're developing the first railway line to extend from Angola to DRC, Zambia, to the Indian Ocean. I think this is a game changer. I really do. We're at a continent that's going to have over 2 billions of people very shortly, and it really is a game changer. That includes Mr. Fink. I call you Larry, I'm calling you Mr. Fink. But we go back a long way. BlackRock and Mr. Nadella of Microsoft, an outfit that we know well home. Today, BlackRock and other partners are committing to invest at least $4 billion toward infrastructure projects that align with our PGI priorities. I got criticized at home for asking when the federal government invests in something that discourage or encourage private sector to invest. 96% of people ask that encourages investment, not discourages investment. It attracts investment. Who in God's name needs a magazine which can hold 200 shells? Nobody, that's right. I remember when I was campaigning, when I was a senator, going through the wetlands of Delaware to read all the people who were most upset with me, the fishermen and the hunters. And I came across a guy who was fishing, and he said, "You want to take my gun?" And I looked at him, I said, "Yeah, I don't want to take your gun. You're allowed to have a gun, but I want to take away your ability to use an assault weapon."
Same thing.
And this is how the conversation went. He said, "What do you mean I need that done?" I said, "Guess what? If you need 12 to 100 bullets in a gun, in a magazine, you're the lousiest shot I've ever heard of." I'm serious. And to his credit, he looked at me and said, "You have a good point."
It's totally made up.
By the way, if they want to think to take on government if we get out of line, which they're talking again about, well, guess what? They need F-15s. They don't need a rifle. I was no longer the vice president. I became a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. Before that, I taught a constitutional law class, and so I taught the Second Amendment. There's never been a time that says you can own anything you want. Never. You couldn't own a cannon during the Civil War. No, I'm serious. Think about it. How many times have you heard this phrase? The blood of liberty. Wash of dough. Give me a break.
I have a PhD in military history, and I did a lot of time studying the founders and the founding documents. To my knowledge, there was absolutely no ban tied to the passage of the Second Amendment in 1791. There was no ban associated with that on the purchase of cannons. And so that is the weirdest hill to take a stand on imaginable to me. I don't know where he got this, why he got it, but it's crazy talk.
Instead of trying to stop our ban on ghost gun kits that contain that commit crimes, they're working like hell to stop it. You can't be pro-law enforcement and say you are pro-law enforcement and be pro-abolishing the AFT.
The night before his anti-gun speech, he attended a Juneteenth celebration at the White House. He shuffled around the White House lawn and slurred through his speech as usual. But this event did give us some of the most awkward moments in political history, with Joe Biden trying to fit into the so-called community that he claimed he grew up in. He also brought out one of his favorite made-up political points, claiming that Republicans are trying to prevent black people from voting.
She knew so long as she was denied, our freedom can never be secured. These black soldiers were a link in a distinguished line of patriots, enslaved and free, who risked their lives in every war since the founding of our ideals, and we don't know fully what American soil is. They're old ghosts in new garments trying to take us back. Well, there are. Taking away your freedoms, making it harder for black people to vote, or have your vote counted. Closing doors of opportunity. Attacking the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you can believe it, banning books about black experiences. Trying to erase and rewrite history.
Now, I could go old school and say, clap your hands, everybody. And everybody, clap your hands to the people on this side. Clap your hands to the people right here. Clap your hands to the people up top. Clap your hands. Watch this.
Could you call on me, yeah, 'cause my heart that you told me, say about me, baby. In my heart, that's how it's supposed to be.
One more time, come on.
I don't wanna love nobody but you. 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 I don't wanna love nobody but you.
Say, what is it called?
He says the day he will come through. He won't let's not put superheroes through.
Say, I will never find
No way to love.
a love like this
Makes my heart beat.
for the rest of my life.
All I wanna do is make you proud of me. He said the day.
Who in God's name needs a magazine which can hold 200 shells?
Me?